Well, welcome everyone to IPM's weekly virtual forum series here on Zoom and live on Facebook. We're pleased to be gathering together to get today, this Friday, November 19th, 1 week prior to the holiday here in the United States. So just to draw your attention to the fact that we will not have a forum next Friday, the 26th, but we'll be back with you the first week of December. Today, we're thrilled to be able to double back, if you will, with one of IPM's longstanding partners and a woman who's been working with us throughout the pandemic as a regional consultant to help IPM facilitate our response to COVID-19. Jacinta is an old friend, if you will, of mine. We were thrilled when she was named the director of the Watoto Lwanga School after Brother Hillary, who many of you have met at IPM General Assemblies in Cleveland, the last two for our 40th and 44th anniversary, when Brother Hillary transitioned to leadership in his order back in Kampala, Uganda. Jacinta was happily appointed the new program director for the school. And she's someone I've known for quite some time. She worked hand in hand with our director of international programs and partnerships, Adela Zayas, and Alyssa Bovell, who many of you will recall from her longtime service with IPM, as we did our initial monitoring, evaluation, assessment, and learning process as the pandemic began almost 2 years ago. And Jacinta served as the primary point person for IPM in sub-Saharan Africa, in Kenya in particular. She has been with the Watoto Lwanga for a number of years now, and she'll be speaking with us today about the remarkable work with street children, vulnerable youth, and marginalized individuals in Kibera, particularly young mothers. Kibera is known as a slum community on the outskirts of Nairobi. It's sort of grew up around the main train route to Mombasa. And if you've seen the movie The Constant Gardener, many of the scenes where the protagonists are walking through a densely populated community on and around train tracks were filmed in Kibera. It has over 1 million people, and it's considered the largest such community of marginalized, materially poor, often transient persons anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa, even better than Soweto, which in South Africa, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. Watoto Lwanga works through its vocational training programs and other initiatives with the aim of empowering their communities through education to achieve socioeconomic empowerment and to eradicate poverty, along with the ongoing challenges resulting from the global pandemic. We've been particularly grateful to have the support of the Eaton Corporation, which is headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, operationally, in our work with Watoto Lwanga over the years, particularly in their electrical training program that many board members, donors, and friends of IPM have visited over the years. So again, we are live on Facebook. I would invite you, as each Friday, if you have any questions or comments, to chat those into the appropriate function that we'll be monitoring throughout today's forum, to mute yourselves, and I'll turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Jacinta, at this time.
Greetings from Nairobi. My name is Jacinta, as Joe has introduced me. We've been working with IPM for many years now, and we appreciate everything that IPM has been doing for Watoto Lwanga, and especially for the vulnerable children from Kibera slum. Today, I'm going to talk about the current state of affairs of Watoto Lwanga program in Kibera. Like Joe has introduced, Joe has done the introduction of where the project is, what we are doing. But I would also want to say that the main objective of Watoto Lwanga is to contribute to holistic development of children and youth living in Kibera slum. Watoto Lwanga has been partnering with IPM over the years in the school feeding program and Young Teenage Mother Program. Our target group is usually the children aged 0 to 3 years old. These are children of the young teenage mothers who attend vocational school at the center. We have the pre-primary school, that is early childhood, 3 to 5 years from the poor background in Kibera. We also have the target of primary school children aged 6 to 17 who are receiving basic education at the center. We also have the disadvantaged youth with a special focus on the teenage mothers and girls who are receiving vocational training at the center. We also target the community, Kibera community, through empowerment projects. Next screen, please. I'm going to talk now about the activities of Watoto Lwanga. Watoto Lwanga has been able to achieve her objective through establishment of the St. Charles Lwanga Educational Center, where we offer baby care, early childhood education, primary education, and vocational training. I would say St. Charles Lwanga is more than an education center for the many children and the youth from Kibera, because to them, this is what they call home. Because every day they come, they get food, they are able to pray in a good environment. We also give them a lot of psycho support, which is a major component of our program. COVID-19 has negatively affected Watoto Lwanga activities on both socio, economic, and especially on health and education sector. The schools were closed in March 2020, and we were only able to reopen in January 2021. Many of the recommended practices to control the spread of COVID, including isolation and quarantine, social distancing, and hand washing, presented particular challenges for people living in poverty, especially in Kibera, where people struggle to get a meal. So even getting money to buy a mask, to install hands, to wash the hands where there is no water, it was very difficult. It has been difficult. Additionally, the residents find it impossible to maintain social distance due to the nature of housing and the large number of persons living in one house. You find one household, there is a father, there is a mother, and maybe 5 children and relatives. And you are talking about a house 10 foot by 10 foot. So in a very small squeezed house, a family of 7 is living, and so no social distance can be practiced. Many people living in the Kibera do cash work or work in the market, and their earnings are very low. They are between $1 to $3 a day. In Kibera, people usually wake up every day in the morning to go to look for food, because they cannot buy food and store it. So during the pandemic, it was very hard for the families to access food and to stay at home. When people are told to stay at home, it wasn't possible because they had to go look for food on a daily basis. The COVID-19 also affected the people, the community, because there was loss of job, especially in hotel industry, and people's life was disrupted, and there was this was affecting the food and household dry-free food security, and household dry-free food. We saw a lot of massive immigration. This time it's not from the rural to the urban, but from urban to the rural, after the lifting of the county's lockdown, which affected our students and trainees in receiving for training in 2021. Many parents are not now earning Many parents are not gainfully employed and they are not able to meet the student contribution. So the whole burden is left to the center, to Watoto wa Lwanga. What we are doing, we are trying to connect them with the other organization which can fund their education and vocational training, and getting scholarship from other organizations. The number of we have seen a rise in the number of teenage pregnancies. Our baby care is currently overloaded and we are forced to turn away mothers who come with babies. So we tell them they have to look for a caregiver to be leaving them with the baby because our capacity is only 30 and we are now above 30. And the space is not enough. We cannot keep more than 30 children at the same time. We have witnessed a lot of cases of neglect, domestic violence, child abuse, and homicide within the community. There is also a rise in substance abuse, and especially even before we had never experienced this at the center, but now we realize we have a new problem where children, even the one in primary school, are using drugs, and this is due to the wrong school closure from March to January. So the children were left, the children and the youth at the vocational training were left idle, and then they started experiencing drugs. And this is not only at the center only, it is countrywide. There is a lot of disorderliness among the youth and the children. Right now, Kenya, we are witnessing a spike of cases of unrest in school. Within the last 2 months, more than 31 learning institutions have been burned down, and school property destroyed, and students even getting injury. Now the problem that we are having, the discussion people are having, who is to blame? Is it the parents? Is it the stakeholders? Is it the teachers, or is it the government? That is the discussion that is ongoing right now because of the unrest that have been witnessed in the school. So for the government to, the children were complaining that because now, before we used to have 3 terms in a year. We used to have first term, which was running from January to April, then from May to July, and then they would break for August holiday, then from September to November. But now that timetable has changed. We had children going from, we have 4 terms from January to March, then from April, they break for 1 week, then April to June, then July to August, then August to only having a break of 1 week. And the students, the students in school, they are complaining that they have not been given time to go home. And while the unrest were there, they were saying they want to go home. So the government has, and the half terms, during the school term, the children were given half term to go to see their parents. And now, since we reopened in January, the half terms were removed. So what the government have done to address this problem is that they have given the student half term from today, the 19th, until next week on 23rd, to see whether the children can go home. Maybe whatever they are reacting is because they are getting homesick. And we hope this will address the problem of the unrest in school. And you see, when the children burn the school, the parents are the ones who pay for the damages. And in fact, that the parents are, with the schools which have been banned, the parents have been given the estimate that they are supposed to pay, and they are paying a lot of money, and they have been told that no child should go back to school if they have school balances, and the parents are not able to raise the money because most of them, their jobs, they lost their jobs. And also, the government has said a child cannot, if they ban a school, they cannot be transferred from that school to another school. They have to go back to the school that they were in. So even, and the students, whoever are connected with the unrest of banning of the school, they are being taken to court and tried as adults. It's not like it's being done until they use their children. They are being tried in court of law as adults. And this is a very unfortunate occurrence, because the minute someone in Kenya, you appear in court because of a criminal activity, they take your fingerprints, and those fingerprints will remain in your file for the rest of your life. And when someone is going to get employed, the employer always asks for certificate of good conduct from the police. And now it means the people who are being involved in this unrest, it means their future might be determined with what they are doing right now. So what we are doing a lot of awareness among the youth, both at our school and outside our school. We are holding some community meetings. We address both the student and their parents to tell them the effect of whatever they are doing when they ban the school, the repercussion, the future repercussion. It's not only now, but it will affect them for the rest of their life. We can go to the next screen. On COVID-19 situation, on 20th October last month, the president lifted the worldwide curfew that was placed since March 2020 to curb the spread of the virus. Now the business have been allowed to operate in normal hours, like they were operating before, having made the new normal that the country finds itself in. So even if you are operating, you have to make the social distancing, you have to provide water, people have to wear a mask. So that is still, despite the opening of the economy, that is still ongoing. Kenya, we have a population of 54 million, 254 cases of COVID had been reported, and 5,233 deaths. To date, the accumulative tests, so far people tested for COVID are 2.8 million. The total recovery started at 247, of who 200,000 people were from home-based care, because we had people who are only going to the hospital. They have been trained at what time you should go and seek medical, because the hospitals, we don't have a very healthy medical care. So, and the hospitals are few, and like only the people who are going to the hospital are the ones whose the oxygen level are very low. Other people were being treated at home, at a home-based care and isolation program, which was put in place by the government and monitored by our health ministry. Currently, as we start today, we only have 362 patients admitted in various health facilities, while 1,000 are at a home-based care program. They are being treated, but they are being treated at home. The infection rate has fallen from below 2% each day, which is positive. This is a very positive thing. The country today has surpassed the 6 million mark of COVID vaccination exercise. That is 3.9 people are partially, they have the first dose, and 2.2 million are fully vaccinated with the first and the second dose. We are targeting, the country is targeting 100 million Kenyans by December to achieve the herd immunity. at least when we reach 10 million, most of their, even the gatherings are been, though the public gatherings, but there is a limit, even the number of people who are supposed to go to church. But when we meet 100 million, 10 million people with, who have received the jab, we are hoping the economy will fully be opened. It is now time for Kenyans to shift from focus from survival, because what we are people before the opening, before the curfew was lifted, and when the rate, the infection rates were high, people are just surviving and at minimum. But now people are learning how to coexist with the disease, because we know the disease is still there. People still have to protect themselves, have to take care, have to practice all the protocols laid down by the Ministry of Health. And I would like to thank the Ministry of Health really did a good job. Though they created a lot of fear, it was what made it very successful is because of the fear that was put in people. And to an extent that people who are getting COVID were being stigmatized. But now the situation is different, because most families have been affected. I've seen a member of family going through COVID, and they have known anyone can get it. You don't have to stigmatize people with COVID. We actually had one case, positive case of COVID at school, but we acted very fast. We worked with the public health and the Ministry of Health, and we were able to, the people who were in contact with the person who tested positive or stayed at home for isolated themselves for 2 weeks. And when they were retested, they were never found positive. And the person who was positive after 14 days was able to be tested, and she was found to be negative. And she actually stayed home for 1 month, and she has resumed work. We know that we are not yet out of the wood, and therefore we must continue to observe the containment measures to sustain the gain made to guarantee the full economy, opening of economy. The next one, we are going to see what Lwanga is doing right now. Watoto is so much involved in community awareness campaign with the Ministry of Health and Public Health. We are doing a lot of awareness campaign to the community. This has been going on. We have trained community health workers, and the activity is ongoing. We are doing a lot at the community level. We are also our students are participating in community cleanup because of the drain, we know the virus, the diseases. Apart from COVID, in Kibera, we experience a lot of other communicable diseases like diarrhea and whatever, which are caused by unhygiene in the area. So our students are participating in the cleanup of the slum, clearing the drainage on weekly basis. That is an activity that we are doing. We have resumed running at the center. We had to improvise because our classroom, each classroom before was had a capacity of 30. And because now we need to do social distancing, we had turned every available space to a classroom, like where they are, that is the library. But now it has been turned to a classroom so that we can be able to practice social distancing. The next screen, you see the photo. We even take them. Sometimes we have to do running outside the compound, the classroom, because of the space. The next screen. Beginning of 2020, before the close were closed down, the government introduced a new curriculum called competent-based curriculum. The new curriculum is good because it's addressing the talent of a student, what the student is best at, not a lot, because before it was more academic and grading, so the students were only forced to learn by memorizing, but now they are doing it practical. It's called competency-based curriculum. Though it is very good, it has been a big challenge to the center due to the lack of resources. A lot of resources are needed in all form of materials. And like I've said, our parents are very poor, come from very poor background. The guardians, they cannot afford to buy the materials. So the resources is one of the major challenge. And then the capacity of our teachers to implement the same, because it's a new curriculum, it was hardly done, so the teachers were not trained on what to do, what they are expected to do. What we have done, we have started offering our staff, our teachers, competence-based training. We are working with the Ministry of Education, and we are not only training the teachers at the center, we are also involving the other teachers in the non-formal settlement, who are the schools, community-based school, the teachers. We are also engaging them in the training that we are offering at the center. And this has been very good because it's building the capacity of our teachers to do to teach what they are expected to teach. In the vocational training, the training is continuing as normal. And what we have done now, we have realized that like most of the hotels after the COVID, because of the loss of business, they were not able to reopen. Now we realize we don't have enough places to take them for internship or attachment. So what we are doing during training, we are giving them a lot of entrepreneurship training, and then we form them, we put them in groups where they learn how to save and saving and loan. And then after that, once we go through the whole entrepreneurship training, we have a mentorship program where we get the mentors, and then we buy them as startup kits. Then they are able to start their own businesses. Right now, we have started at least 12 businesses with students who completed in this year in April, who sat for the national exam from the vocational training. They have started their own business, and this is very positive. Has been very positive because when they start their own business, they are able to even employ some of their classmates. So this has been very successful so far, and we hope it will continue. We'll have more. We'll get funds to implement this business startup program. Asante sana, Joe.
Hey, thank you, Jacinta. Thank you so much. Really grateful for that update and to have this additional information. We heard from Jacinta at the beginning or earlier this year, and we've been in regular contact throughout the pandemic. So it's very helpful to know what the situation is like in Kenya at this time. We are hopeful that travel will open up a little bit more and that I'll be able to get back to Kenya myself in the coming year. And we're looking still to hire a new regional director there. So we'll look forward to working with Jacinta and others on that, along with Dorothy Nyongo, our board member in Kenya, who I don't believe, I'm just checking, sorry that I'm looking down, I don't believe is on today's call. So I'd like to open it up now. We have, that was actually a briefer presentation than we're used to, which is nice. Gives us a little bit more time for dialogue and conversation. So I would like to open it up at this time. If anyone has a question for Jacinta that you would like to ask or a comment, please feel free to do so. We did have a couple of a comment from Carol and a response from Ilsa. Just I don't know if you can see that about your smile and your personality and how infectious your commitment is, and how inspiring your love, not only for your work, but for the young people and the young women in particular that you work with is. And I will say Jacinta is a remarkable role model herself as the first female head of the school, someone that the young girls there can look up to and aspire to live up to her example. So any comments or questions, thoughts at this time that you'd like to share? It looks like Carol is raising her hand. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I was really pleased, Jacinta, with your comment about the fact that as much as we are doing and what you are doing, there is so much more to do, but we are going to have to live and adjust to what reality is with the COVID. So that was really a positive comment, and certainly looking forward or looking ahead to what we all have to do. Thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to echo what Carol said. I actually jotted down on my notepad Jacinta's comment about how we have to learn to coexist with the virus. And it is true, that is our new reality. And Jacinta, again, thank you so much for your presentation today, for the update, and for the remarkable work that you do through your inspiring leadership and everyone at Watoto Lwanga. It's just obvious how vital your work is in the community. And, you know, just listening to the reality that you've all had to live under, particularly in the slums of Kibera, and the challenges, the heartbreaking realities of, you know, distress and mental health on families, but particularly, I think, our young children and students, you know, for them having to adapt to this kind of new reality and the additional challenges of their parents' lost jobs and because of reduced opportunities, you know, with regard to their vocational training. That's why I think, you know, the most latter points that you shared about creative ways that you are, you know, really helping support the vocational training through the business startups and the entrepreneurial opportunities. It's just so inspiring. You're always looking for the positive side to how to move the community and individuals forward. So thank you for the incredible work that you continue to do. And we are just so grateful, you know, for your partnership with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ilsa. There's also a comment from Jim Kamphafner just saying just a wealth of information, and thanking you as well for the presentation. Anything else that anyone would like to add from any of our regional offices or project partners in particular?
I do have a question for Jacinta. About the new curriculum, I was wondering, because you shared how the parents were worried because they couldn't have the material for the new curriculum, but I was also wondering, how did they receive the content of this new curriculum? Because I have seen, for example, other places where I live that had done this change of curriculum where parents, besides liking or not liking or having or not having the material, are not, how can I put it, are not really invested in a non-traditional curriculum or in a new curriculum. They want the kids just to have a lot of homework and not do many practical things. So I was just wondering, how did the parents reacted when this curriculum changed? Sorry, Jacinta, I think you're muted.
I'm saying the parents have not taken it positively because this curriculum is a curriculum that is making sure the child is working so much with the parents is working together with the child. And the parents are saying, are we the one who are running? Are we the one who are in school? Because the child is given the task to come and do at home with the children. I remember last week I was at home. I lived with my daughter and her children, and she was away. Then the son came, and I came late from work. I came at around 8 o'clock in the evening. And then I found he had not slept, and I asked him why. He said, I was waiting for you because we've been given homework and I need you to assist me. I told him, now, okay, I told him just bring, and then the homework was, he writes 2 folk songs in his mother language, which he cannot talk, which he doesn't even know. And it's be taught how to dance it, how to dance that song. It's a folk song. How to dance that song, and how someone is supposed to, and dress how they are supposed to dress when they are dancing. And we take a video, and then he write the folk song in the mother tongue. While he cannot even speak the mother tongue, it's also very difficult for me to write in my mother tongue. So actually what I did, I went to YouTube and I looked for Kikuyu folk song. Then that is where we ran and we saw how they were dressed. Now we dressed, and you see it's late at night, we dressed, and we took the video, and now we post to, there's a group, there's a group where there's where we are supposed to post whatever we have recorded. But you see, it is, so the parents have to be involved, and they don't want this. They want when children, they have left the children to the teachers. That is why we are seeing so much unrest in the schools. Then, and you can imagine there is a child who do not have access with a smartphone. So you see, it is not, I would say it is not very balanced, because the way it was implemented, it didn't give room for, it didn't prepare the parents what to expect. So sometimes you find it's good, but on the other hand, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult, and most parents are complaining about it, because there's some tasks that you are given that to do with the children. They had detached themselves from their children. When they are in school, they belong to the teachers. The parents have left their discipline, the teachers. So now they are finding it very, very, very hard to cope with the competence-based curriculum. Actually, they are always complaining on the social media. The parents are always complaining of whatever tasks they were given, what they are told to do. There is one they had, they were told to make like a doll, and a big one, like a person. And then one parent came home at night at around, the father came at 11 at night and found the dummy in the house. And he was so scared, he thought it was a ghost. So he took photo of it and said, this curriculum should be stopped. So parents are not so much for it. Because you see, the other time you could leave the child with the house girl to do the whole, but now you have to get involved, and parents do not like it. But for me, I think it's a better thing. It's better, because the father, the parent, and the child are even having time to interact, which was not there before.
Okay, thank you so much, Jacinta. It's interesting to see how, even though we're oceans away, parents react very similar when it comes to those kind of things. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry, but I did have another question. I used to be a teacher, a dance teacher, but that's why I'm very interested in the education area and topic. I also wanted to ask you how you personally at the center have seen, if or if not, the process of socializing has changed with the children, especially with the youngest ones after being in lockdown and having the curfew and all that. Yeah, maybe you could share a little bit of that with us, please. I think you're muted again. I'm sorry.
The children staying at home for that long and not being in the company of their colleagues that they are used to playing with and whatever, it has actually affected them, and I think it's also traumatized them. They felt alone, and we have seen a lot of change in social behavior. They are scared. They don't know what will happen. They fear maybe tomorrow. Actually, you hear them every day. They'll come and ask, how many people have tested positive today? Because they know if the number goes up, they will be told to go home again, and they don't want to go. And like our case, that the children fully depend on the food that they get at the center. So when they were at home, they could not, they could maybe have one meal a day or not have that meal. So that is why during the lockdown, we had this food pack we were giving them. So they fear that if it happens again, they'll go home and they'll be hungry, they'll lose their friends. And there was a lot of abuse during that time. The children were abused at home. So they are traumatized, and I think they fear that it would happen again. That is the biggest fear that they have, that if the schools can be closed again, and they don't want. In our case, in the center in Kibera, because that is where they call home. That is where they wake up in the morning. That is where they know they will get their meal. That is where they know they get, in Kibera, they don't even have space where they can play. So to them, being at home was the worst. It traumatized them.
Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Jacinta, for that powerful comment, and also Vicky for those important questions. Jacinta, there is another comment from our colleague Soni Shrestha in Nepal, who's thanking you for the presentation and the wonderful work you're doing in the community. I'd like to ask you if you'd be willing to speak about a little bit now, with the time we have, about the impact, the continued impact of HIV and AIDS in Kibera, and particularly on Watoto Lwanga. In a couple of weeks, really not even 2 full weeks, we'll be commemorating World AIDS Day, which is, always a particularly important part of the annual calendar in sub-Saharan Africa, as recall the impact that prior pandemic, that's still ongoing pandemic, has had on the people of Kenya and Kibera, given some of the statistics, especially that we know about Kibera and the role that sex trafficking and child trafficking plays within the community. So would it be possible for you, I know it's a delicate topic in many ways, but would it be possible for you to speak a little bit to not only this pandemic of COVID-19, but the ongoing pandemic that's been ongoing for 40 years now or more, of HIV and AIDS, and the impact that has on Watoto Lwanga and the Kibera community more broadly? I think you might be muted again.
I can say before the COVID-19 pandemic, for many years now, HIV/AIDS has been a real challenge and a threat for people, because in the poor communities, and like I would say, in a community that we are working with, if someone is not infected affected, they are affected. We have even children at the center who are born HIV positive, and they are living with it. Currently, we have around 1.5 million people living with HIV. The pandemic is actually, we are discussing about it because right now people are not, had forgotten about HIV. And we realize even during COVID time, maybe the rate of infection has gone up because people are either they were not doing anything, people didn't have money. So, and I was saying, the way we are seeing many pregnancies, it means we could, after maybe 1 year, we would also experience the same with new high level of infection of HIV, because when COVID came, people almost forgot about it. It was not an issue. Nobody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about HIV. Currently, it's we are at 4.5% prevalence between the people aged 15 to 49 years old. We have the new cases that have been reported currently. I know this because we were discussing it the other day. It's around 42,000 cases. That's a big number. And we are still having deaths. More, we are talking about 5,000 cases of COVID. But around in 2019 in Kenya, 21,000 cases were related deaths were related to HIV and AIDS. And you see, now you can imagine now 2020, 2021, when people are not the campaign about HIV treatment, prevention, people are silent about it. They were all thinking about COVID-19. While COVID-19 has not even killed as many people that within those 2 years, like what HIV, now the number of people who died of HIV in 2019. So luckily enough, most people who are positive have, it's no longer, HIV is no longer, would I say, before there's not so much stigma put on people with HIV. People are talking about it. Those who are positive are talking about it. They have seen people who are taking medicine, at least they are able to control. And we have quite a number of almost 80% of people who have HIV are accessing free treatment in the country. And the children also who are positive are also able to access free treatment. But I think this is HIV is an area that we cannot forget. We cannot say because of COVID or that we should not continue to create awareness of HIV because it's still there. It's only that people are able to live with it, to coexist with it. And people have become open about it. And I think we still need to do a lot of awareness creation, and because it has been there, it has been with us, and we have many successful stories that people are able to live with it. And we are not going to stop. We are still going to, as Watoto Lwanga, we are still going to address the issue, because actually it has affected us more, because the number of orphans that we have at the center, we have almost 45% of our children are orphaned through HIV/AIDS, and we are still seeing many parents. We are losing many parents because of HIV, but we have not lost anyone because of COVID. So I think even the government should not be ranked on the issues of HIV and concentrate on COVID. And we not only COVID, we have other communicable diseases like malaria, diarrhea. They are still killing people in big numbers, especially in Kibera. So we have to continue creating awareness about HIV and make sure that there is no stigma and discrimination of people, and everybody should be able to access the HIV services like it was when COVID was discovered. They should also make the same effort to make sure that prevention, curative on HIV is available to all the people, the population, and especially to the poor people in Kibera. Thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Jacinta. That was an excellent summary, and I know that you've shared some of those feelings and statistics with me in the past, so I'm glad that everybody had the opportunity to hear them. It certainly speaks to that phrase that if someone is not infected, they're certainly affected, is really powerful, and a really powerful reminder, I think, is those of us who have worked in this space for decades know that the international community, the donor community, tends to sort of jump from one tragedy or one pandemic to another. And yet, as you rightly said, children continue to die every 6 seconds in sub-Saharan Africa from hunger and other treatable diseases. And while we focus on the pandemic, rightly so, we need to also keep our eyes on what's happening in response to HIV and AIDS, malaria, dengue, chikungunya, and everything else that's impacting your work and the work of our partners. I want to also point out that there's a comment on Zoom from Aneta Ramos in our El Salvador office, who says, "Thank you so much for your presentation. I admire all the commitment and passion you put into everything you do. Education is a right. Education is a right, a human right, and necessary for the development," I think she says, "of the territories." I'm not sure exactly that's what Aneta meant, but for everyone, and certainly for children. So we just have a minute or so now. I want to turn it over to my colleague, Ilse Fender, in our headquarters, so she can walk us through what we have planned for the next coming weeks. For those of you who are celebrating or commemorating, both as a way of honoring sort of the history of the United States, but also as a way of mourning the encounter and what happened to the native peoples of this part of the world after the Pilgrims landed, a story that is often not told in our US curriculum. No matter how you're spending the Thanksgiving holiday, hopefully you will take time to reflect on the work that our nation has left to do in bringing justice and equity to our Native brothers and sisters across the United States. From where I sit in Maine with the Wabanaki community, in Cleveland with the Native populations there, we know that our office in much of Cleveland sits on unceded land from Native communities. So we want to remember them, especially as so much of the myth telling continues this Thanksgiving holiday. But it's also an important time for us to gather with family and loved ones, many of whom we have not been able to greet or see as often as we'd like during this pandemic, And so I pray that you're able to be with those you love if you're traveling in the United States or Canada for this holiday, and to enjoy that time together. And I also want to thank Jacinta again for that wonderful presentation, and everyone for your active participation. We will be sharing this with a couple of folks who asked to have copies forwarded to them, and the presentation will remain up on our Facebook page for the foreseeable future. So thank you again, Jacinta Santesana, Erica Mano, and I'll turn it over to Ilse at this time.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much, Youth.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Jacinta, again for truly your life-affirming and life-sustaining work. We really appreciated it and enjoyed your presentation today, and look forward to ways to continue to support and partner together. Next week, as Joe said, we will not be having our weekly forum because of the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. We will resume on December 3rd with a presentation by former IPM board member and project coordinator Anna Gregg with Nutravita in El Salvador. We look forward to Anna's presentation and sharing the remarkable work that they have been doing in the community. And then later on in December, we'll be having additional forums that will share more about the traditional year-end holiday celebrations, and also a very special forum on December 17th, our final one for the year, that will really focus on IPM's expressions of gratitude by our staff, by our board members, by our project partners alike. We are so grateful to be a global family, you know, working across and around the world, and together making a real difference. So thank you all for sharing your time with us for these forums, and for the work that you do, whether directly in the communities or through your financial contributions, through your gifts of time and talent. We remain so humbled and grateful, as I said, to be a global family. So thank you all again. All righty. So with that, unless anyone else has anything to add, we can conclude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Jacinta.
Thank you, Jacinta. Bye.
Bye.